This is Money Made Simple, the financial podcast that keeps it simple and gets to the point.
Kia ora and welcome back to Money Made Simple, brought to you by Simplicity. Hey Jen.
Hello, Liv.
So by the time this goes to air, just a caveat, it is December now, but it's going to be January, I think. So Happy New Year, Jenny.
Happy New Year to you too.
So to celebrate the new year, we're talking about a fascinating topic that we've actually covered before, a long, long time ago now. I think it's coming up 2 years perhaps.
Yeah, I think we passed our 2-year anniversary of recording this podcast a month or two ago.
Yes, but we're actually revisiting a really fundamental concept in finance, and that is compounding.
Yeah, so compounding interest or compounding returns, we're going to explain the difference. But the easiest way to understand it is in itself a bit of a tongue twister, isn't it?
Yes, money making money on your money, right?
Say that again.
Money making money on your money over time. Apparently it is Einstein's 8th wonder of the world.
Yeah, I hear that a lot and I kind of question it. I feel like anything smart or intelligent often gets attributed to Einstein.
I 100% believe that. But I think it just shows how powerful the concept is. So over long-term financial success, compounding is really important, right?
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully this is going to help you understand compounding returns or compounding interest and get it working for you.
Yeah, because it can be so powerfully good and also it can be so powerfully bad, right?
Yes, and I was one of these people who not that long ago didn't really understand how I could use it to my advantage. I just found it working against me.
So it's not like rich people understand it and not rich people don't. It's lots of everyday Kiwis don't. So let's start with the definition. So I've given my money makes money definition.
Yeah, so there is actually a longer version of that, and that is money makes money, and the money that money makes money.
So even more of a tongue twister.
Yes, but actually more accurate.
And probably another of those quotes that just gets loosely attributed to some famous guy. But in simple terms, when you earn interest or returns on your savings or investments, and you leave that money invested or saved, those returns or the interest start earning returns or interest of their own. And over time, this has a snowball effect as you accrue more savings or returns in whatever account that you're talking about. So basically, it's growing exponentially behind the scenes without you having to do anything.
Cool. Why don't we quickly look at those two terms and look at the difference so that we can make this a little bit easier. So when we're talking about compounding interest, that's quite specific. We're usually talking about a savings account and any interest that you're earning on those savings.
Often associated with a bank.
Yeah. So that's when your money earns some interest and you leave that interest in your savings account and it earns a little bit more interest. It's quite a specific example. Compounding returns is the same idea, but it applies more broadly
across investing and savings, right?
Yes, exactly. And it includes all the ways that money can earn money. So not just interest, also dividend payments, capital gains, reinvested earnings, that kind of thing. So compounding interest is a specific type of compounding returns.
And compounding returns is like the overarching umbrella term.
Exactly. So we'll talk about compounding returns and that includes compounding interest.
Yes, the same also goes when we refer to the bad side of it, the other way around from money making money, right?
Yes. So debt making debt.
Yeah, exactly. So when you accrue debt and you don't pay it back in full and on time, it also compounds, like the debt snowballs as well.
Yeah.
But let's move on to a really simple example of how compounding works to kind of help crystallize what it means.
Go on.
So $100 saved or invested. Let's imagine, just for simplicity's sake, that the return per year is 10%.
Okay.
Cool. So that means at the end of year one, your money will grow to $110. So it's earned 10% of that $100, and that equals 110. The next year, you grow another 10%. However, you earn an extra $1 in returns because the $10 that you earned in year one also earned 10% of returns.
So it's like your money has a little money baby.
Yes, it's a lovely way of thinking of it. So $1 doesn't sound like a lot in extra earnings.
No, it really doesn't.
No. So in second year, you're earning only $1 extra, but then in the third year, you're making an extra $2 on top of that. So it'll be $133 total that you've accrued with the interest or returns.
Yeah. So the returns that you made in the second year and have now also made their own returns.
Yes. And so it seems really small, right? But we did a quick calculation on 100 years just to give some context, because the thing about compounding is leaving it over time, so not 1 or 2 or 3 years. So at the end of that 100 years, you would be at around $1,378 earned off the back of that $100. So you didn't put in any more than that initial $100, the principal, over those 100 years, but you earned over $1,000 in compounding returns.
Which is awesome if you can live for 100 years.
Yeah, but if you say, make this slightly bigger numbers, if you put $1,000 in to start with, you would end up with $13,780 at the end of your 100 years. So you put $1,000 in, you then got 12,000 and something.
Yeah,
just
which sounds like a much more significant amount of money. So if you look at that on a graph, when you're talking about compounding, it grows exponentially, so it starts to curve up.
Yeah, so your investments or your saving or your debt curve up in that graph. So the key word is time rather than timing.
And like lots of investing terms, compounding isn't just about finance. I think when we were planning this episode, we were talking about lots of other things in your life that can compound.
Yeah, so like knowledge, I think, can compound. So once you start to grasp something, it's not a linear increase of your knowledge. Once you get the basics, your knowledge can then exponentially increase as you understand more and more.
The same would apply if you think about learning a language or learning an instrument.
Yep,
like
or reading.
Once you got the basics.
Yeah, it gets easier to understand or learn or grasp things faster. I think compounding is a really important concept in everyday life.
Yeah.
But let's move back to finance, because this is a finance podcast, and go through a couple of examples of having compounding work for you first.
Well, I think KiwiSaver, obviously, obsessed. And I think it's a really fantastic example because one of the reasons that compounding works so well is time, right? And KiwiSaver is generally, for the majority of us, a very long-term investment. So you are putting your money in, and there's only a few ways that you can withdraw that money. So any money that is being earned every year stays in your KiwiSaver fund and starts to earn returns of its own. So I think KiwiSaver is great, and it actually shows that from the 3.3 million of us that have a KiwiSaver account, we are already using compounding returns to our advantage.
But we might not even know it, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And it's taking advantage, as you said, of that really important concept of time in the market.
Yes.
So time for your money to snowball or exponentially grow in that curved fashion.
And that would work the same for other managed funds as well. So people that have other investment funds, the earnings in those accounts, if you're leaving the money in there, then you will be benefiting from compounding returns.
Yes.
So it's really just about leaving it alone if you can, right?
Yeah. The same goes for high interest savings accounts or term deposits. So term deposits, some of them will pay out on, say, a quarterly basis or whatever that's set up to do. And that means that you get that interest paid out and that wouldn't compound. But if you leave the interest in and that's part of your term deposit or whatever, your high interest savings account, then that interest that you've earned would compound.
Yeah. So it's really about leaving it alone. That's why KiwiSaver works so well, because it's sort of a set and forget thing. You can't access it.
Yes.
So it's about how you've got your investments set up.
Yeah,
really.
Leaving it saved or invested means that it works better for you. And another example of how you can make compounding work better for you. So if you get a pay rise or you take on a side hustle, if you actually invest or save that money rather than spending it, like lifestyle creep, it's kind of good to think about how those little extra amounts that you earn could actually increase the power of compounding because you've got more left in the savings or investments to compound.
Yeah. So earning extra money in the side hustle or pay increases or whatever isn't actually compounding itself, but the more you're adding to whatever you have saved or invested, the greater impact of that snowball effect.
Exactly.
Because I think it's really tempting when you have that extra money, like maybe you do get a pay rise or maybe you get a bonus or someone gives you some money, whatever it is, it's really tempting just to spend it.
Yes.
But if you think about what that extra money might be worth to you in 5 or 10 years if you invested it, that might stop you on your tracks a little bit and you're like, actually, the future me is going to be grateful for putting that money to work.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it just comes back to that concept of time. So time helps it grow. At the very start of when you invest something or save something, it compounds slower. But then when you give it years, that's when it starts to take off. So that 5 or 10 years, you start to actually see the impact of compounding in real life.
Yeah. It can be a bit frustrating then because at the beginning it can take a while for you to start to see the impact of your efforts. There's no instant gratification here. You have to be in it for the long haul. So I go out and do lots of talks and presentations, and we talk about compounding returns quite often. And I use an example of two people just to show the impact of compounding returns. So we're going to call them Gemma and Carter.
Cool.
They are the same age, and they both invest the same amount of money, but over different time periods. So for simplicity's sake, because we like to keep things simple, we're going to say they both invest into a growth fund, which returns 5% each year.
Yep.
Okay, so Gemma starts investing when she's 25, and she's invested $500 a month from 25.
Okay.
Carter starts investing 10 years later when he's 35, and he invests a bit more, so he invests $750 a month.
Okay. So Carter starts later, but he's investing more per month to make up for it so that they've invested the same amount at the end of your fictional example.
Exactly. So when they hit 55, they have both invested $180,000 each.
Which is amazing, right?
It's amazing. Good on them.
Yeah.
But through the power of compounding, Gemma, who started investing 10 years earlier than Carter, now has a total of $407,688.
Okay.
Which is actually $105,000 more than Carter has, because he has $304,000.
Okay.
I'll go back over that just to be clear.
Yep.
So, and to be fair, I'd be happy with either of these amounts. I'm
100%.
like stoked for Gemma and Carter. But so they both invested the same amount of money, $180,000, but over different time periods. So Gemma started at 25.
So she had a longer time period.
She had a 10 years longer time period. Carter started at 35. But when they both reached that same age, Gemma, through the power purely of compounding, because they were in the same fund, earning the same returns every year, managed to have over $100,000 more than Carter.
Yeah, nice. So give your money more time to compound.
Yes, you don't have to invest more.
Yes. Same amount in, it'll grow more exponentially because you gave it more time.
Exactly.
Nice. So what happens when you don't have time?
You can't gain time, obviously, but you should still start, because you still have time ahead of you. If you're young, amazing, you have time on your side. If you're a little bit more mature, like some people in this room, then the sooner you start, the better. So start today.
This all does work the other way around when it comes to the power of compounding in debt, right?
Yeah.
So let's go to the flip side. So credit cards, overdue, buy now, pay later, personal loans. Interest basically grows on interest and becomes exponential over time if you don't pay off that money. So this doesn't apply if you are, for example, one of those people like me that pays your credit card off in full every month, or if you make 100% of your buy now, pay later payments before the due dates.
Yeah, so it's okay for those of us who are disciplined, but we know that for lots of Kiwis, that's not the case.
No. And I have some stats that they go back to February 2025, but still, recent. And there was around $6.1 billion in overdue credit card debt or unpaid credit card debt in New Zealand.
Yikes. Yeah. That's a lot of money, isn't it?
Yep, 6.1 billion. And all of that debt that's overdue, say you pay the minimum payments on your credit card rather than the full amount that you owe that month, that debt, the interest compounds over time.
Yeah. And if you think about consumer debt, so credit cards particularly, it's some of the highest interest debt that you can get. Yep. So a credit card might be somewhere between 18 and 20%.
Yeah. And personal loans can be around that or lower or even higher, right?
So yes, if you think about the impact of compounding with an interest rate like that, it's going to compound faster than ever.
Yeah. And student loans are usually a low interest rate level, right? But it can feel really slow to pay it off because it feels like it's growing. And if you're only making minimum payments, like a lot of students and people earlier in their career are doing, that interest on your student loan, even though it's a lower interest rate, is still compounding.
Yeah, and I was one of those really unlucky people that had to pay interest while I was studying.
But you never talk about it, so it's fine.
No, I don't think I've ever mentioned it before on this podcast.
Yeah.
No.
Let's talk about mortgages.
Okay.
Because that's a really common one. So mortgages obviously have interest on them, and that long-term interest adds up over time. So this is a good example of when you'll pay a large amount of interest versus what your debt was, that principal, over time. But it's very well accepted, right? Because lots of people have mortgages. It's the norm.
Yeah.
So the interest on your mortgage compounds because you're not paying down the full amount from the very start. You're paying what the bank or whatever your mortgage provider is telling you. So say over a 30-year mortgage term, So this isn't realistic, but let's just keep it simple for the example here and imagine that it's a 5% interest rate over the whole term.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you take out $500,000 for a mortgage. An easy
Definitely
number.
not living in Auckland.
No, an easy number to work with for now. If you pay over that 30-year mortgage term a 5% interest rate, you would end up paying just over $465,000 in interest, as well as your $500,000 that you're paying off.
Wow. So you're almost paying double what you paid for the house initially.
Or what you borrowed from the bank. Yeah. So $965,000 paid back to the bank or your mortgage provider for that $500,000 loan that you took out.
Yeah.
And the reason that interest is so much is the power of compounding.
Yes.
Yeah.
Although, as you said, the interest on that kind of debt is much lower generally than
If you
other
have
debts.
what we call personal debt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's move on to what you can do to actually take advantage of this magical compounding in the good way.
Well,
Compound
obviously,
returns.
I'm going to say start as early as you can.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm one of the poster girls for it's never too late to get your financial shit together and start investing. But if you're a young person...
You're lucky, right? We're
Yeah.
telling you now.
Yes, I'm grateful to have learnt what I've learnt in the last few years now. And
As an old
I
person.
might be 20 years behind everybody else, but time is your friend. But if you haven't started, it doesn't matter where you're at, just start now.
To start. Yeah. And if you can automate savings, round up your purchases and put them over into investments or savings. So little amounts over time can add up more than you think because they can compound.
Yeah.
So there's bits and pieces along the ways will actually help that snowball effect.
Yeah, and I think the automate part is really important because we all have lots of, great intentions, but life is very busy. We have a lot of demands on our time and attention. And if you automate your investments, then you can just forget about them and they'll just plot away in the background. You don't have to think about it.
It's working for you.
Yeah, and I think that's why KiwiSaver has been so successful because once you're in it, it's actually easier to stay in it than it is to get out of it.
Yeah.
Your contributions are taken automatically out of your pay if you're employed. Your employer will be hopefully making contributions as well. So that's a perfect example of automation working to your advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if you already have an automated investment every week or fortnight, once you get a pay rise, maybe just increase that automatic investment amount by say $5 or $10 or whatever you can.
Yeah, put a bit of a lid on that lifestyle creep. And if you get the pay rise, increase your savings, not your spending.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very powerful words there.
Thank you. And I think you've already said this, but just to reiterate it, start small. Don't feel like you have to have lots of money set aside to start investing.
Yeah. On that note, lots of financial product providers, including us, don't have a minimum on what you can start your investing with. So you can start with $5. That's not a bad thing. You are starting. Again, you're doing it. If you can start and you have $5 or $10 or $50 or $100, open your investment account with whatever you feel comfortable with. Do the research that you need to in terms of what you want to invest in and who you want to invest with, but just get started.
Yeah,
Cool.
Exactly. Okay. Well, should we wrap it up there?
I think the key is that compounding is a real superpower when it's working for you.
Yes, but it can definitely be a powerful force against you too.
Yeah, so it can be a good superpower or a bad superpower depending on what you're doing with it.
But if you understand it, you can try and prevent it working against you too much, and you can try and accentuate how it works for you.
Yeah, little changes that you make, little tweaks on both the debt side and the savings or investment side can have a much bigger impact than most people would think.
Yeah, almost a disproportionate impact. So again, do it now because what that might look like in 5 or 10 years, you might be surprised by.
Yes, awesome. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone, and we will see you next time.
Ka kite.
This podcast contains personal opinions and is intended to provide educational information only. It doesn't relate to your particular financial situation or goals and is not financial advice or recommendations. Simplicity New Zealand Limited is the issuer of the Simplicity KiwiSaver scheme and investment funds. For product disclosure statements, please visit Simplicity's website simplicity.kiwi.